Russell Westbrook has broken the single-season record.
Here's Westbrook racing up the floor, coast to coast, and he throws it down.
Every museum has a curator, and every exhibit, they have a story. But some stories don't need someone to tell them. They just speak for themselves.
On August 12, 2026, one of the most emotional players of his generation announced his retirement without delivering a retirement speech. For 18 seasons, Russell Westbrook played as if there might not be another night. He hit the floor. He got back up. He demanded the ball again. Then he came downhill with enough force to make 5 defenders reconsider their career choices.
Nothing about him felt quiet. Nothing felt neutral. You did not watch Russell Westbrook and shrug.
And yet, in his final film, he walks through an empty museum and barely says a word. Michael B. Jordan asks the questions. The answers are left hanging between old jerseys, family photographs, trophies, and one unfinished wing. At first, it looks like an elegant goodbye. Look a little closer, and it feels like one last argument between Westbrook and the basketball world. What matters more, the result or the effort? A championship ring or the mark a player leaves on the sport? Can a career be undeniably great when it never ends with a title? That argument did not begin when Westbrook retired. It followed him for most of his career. When he scored 40, people asked how many shots it took. When he handed out 15 assists, they pointed to the turnovers. When he grabbed 10 rebounds, they searched for the possession where a big man let him have one. Even his loyalty to Oklahoma City could be framed 2 different ways: devotion to a city or a desire to keep the entire offense in his hands. 2 people could watch the same Westbrook game and come away describing 2 different players. One saw relentless competitive will. The other saw chaos without restraint. One saw a star giving everything he had. The other saw a star who needed everything to revolve around him. That is why this cannot be a highlight reel with numbers attached. Westbrook becomes most interesting at the exact point where admiration turns into frustration, where greatness and imperfection become impossible to separate. To understand that player, we have to go back to a time before the museum, before the MVP, before the triple-doubles, back when almost nobody knew his name.
This one's from the inner city of South Central. Before any of it. Before the triple-doubles, before the MVP, before anybody outside of Los Angeles knew his name. Because why not?
Westbrook was born in Long Beach and raised in Hawthorne by Russell Westbrook Jr. and Shannon Horton. His father handled the basketball and football workouts. His mother made sure sports never became an excuse to neglect school. Russell would graduate with a grade point average around 3.9. But long before anyone cared about his grades or his game, he learned how to wait for an opportunity nobody had promised him. He entered high school at roughly 5'8" and 140 pounds. That is not the opening line of a typical NBA superstar biography. He was not a national prodigy. He was not sitting near the top of recruiting rankings. He did not even become a varsity starter until late in his high school career. His closest basketball dream was shared with a childhood friend named Kelsey Bars III. They lived near one another, played together, and imagined basketball carrying both of them somewhere bigger. At 16, Kelsey collapsed during a pickup game and died from an enlarged heart. Westbrook continued to wear those initials through his career, not as branding, as a promise that the person who could not make the journey would not be erased from it. It is easy to turn hardship into destiny once we know the ending. To say the loss made him tougher or that every rejection was preparing him for greatness. Real life is not that organized. At the time, there were no guarantees. Just a small guard who had lost one of his best friends, a father demanding another repetition, and a mother demanding another completed assignment. Then came the question that would follow him for the rest of his life.
Why not? Why not make varsity? Why not earn a college scholarship? Why not guard the players everyone else already considered future pros?
By his senior year, the body finally began to catch up with the engine. Westbrook grew, got stronger, and became explosive. He averaged roughly 25 points and nearly 9 rebounds. In one game, he scored 51. Even then, the major college offers did not pour in. He was not treated like the next sure thing. UCLA came late after a scholarship opened, and the Bruins needed another guard. That detail matters. Westbrook's career is often discussed as if his confidence appeared after fame. It was the other way around. The confidence had to exist first, because the evidence was not there yet. At UCLA, Westbrook did not arrive as the star. As a freshman, he came off the bench and averaged a little more than 3 points per game. What the coaching staff saw was harder to capture in a box score: defensive pressure, recovery speed, a willingness to pick up full court, and the internal edge of a player who had spent too long being ranked behind somebody else. By his sophomore season, he had become the starting point guard. He averaged nearly 13 points, more than 4 assists, and earned Pac-10 Defensive Player of the Year. In his 2 seasons, UCLA reached the Final Four twice. The scouting report was still divided. The athleticism was obvious. So was the defense. But could he really run an NBA offense? Was the jumper good enough? Was he a point guard, a shooting guard, or simply a remarkable athlete without a clean position? Plenty of evaluators thought the 4th pick would be too high.
With the 4th pick in the 2008 NBA Draft, the Seattle Supersonics select Russell Westbrook from UCLA.
On June 26, 2008, the Seattle Supersonics selected Russell Westbrook 4th overall. He put on a green hat for a franchise he would never officially represent. 6 days later, the relocation to Oklahoma City was finalized. One of the last players ever drafted by Seattle was about to become one of the first defining players in Oklahoma City basketball history. And it is worth remembering what the Thunder thought they were drafting. They were not taking a future scoring champion. They were not projecting 4 seasons averaging a triple-double. They saw a defender, an athlete, and an unusual competitor whose offensive game would have to be built.
This was the next chapter. The Sonics made him the number 4 pick in 2008. No one in OKC could have told you what he'd become.
The Thunder won 23 games in their first Oklahoma City season. They were young, loose, and frequently overwhelmed. But the outline was visible. Durant was becoming one of the purest scorers the league had ever seen. Westbrook was growing from a defensive athlete into an attacking point guard. James Harden arrived the following year. Serge Ibaka developed behind them. For Oklahoma City, this was bigger than a normal rebuild. The city had just received an NBA franchise and had no inherited basketball mythology. No decades of championships. No retired legends hanging above the floor. The history had to be created in real time. Durant was the central talent. But Westbrook gave the young franchise much of its emotional language. His pace matched a city eager to prove big league basketball belonged there. He did not play with the deference expected from a newcomer. Neither did the crowd. In 2010, the Thunder reached the playoffs and pushed the eventual champion Lakers to 6 games. 1 year later, they made the Western Conference Finals. 1 year after that, they reached the NBA Finals. Westbrook was 23. Durant was 23. Harden was 22. Ibaka was 22.
This was not supposed to be their only finals run. It was supposed to be the beginning of a dynasty.
Waiting for them was Miami, LeBron James, Dwayne Wade, and Chris Bosh. Oklahoma City won Game 1, then lost 4 straight. In Game 4, Westbrook delivered one of the finest performances of his career. 43 points, 7 rebounds, 5 assists, 20 made field goals, 17 points in the 4th quarter. And with 13 seconds left, he committed an unnecessary foul because he misunderstood the clock situation after a jump ball.
The Thunder lost.
That one night contained the entire future argument about Russell Westbrook. Fearless on the biggest stage, powerful enough to keep his team alive almost by himself, and responsible for one late mistake people could point to as if it canceled everything that came before it. Miami won the championship. Oklahoma City went home believing this young core would be back.
It never played another season together.
In the fall of 2012, the Thunder failed to reach a contract agreement with Harden and traded him to the Rockets. At the time, the move was explained through money, role, and roster construction. It later became one of the great what-if decisions in league history. It is easy now to say Oklahoma City should have paid whatever it took to keep 3 future MVPs. In 2012, nobody knew all 3 would win the award. Harden was still a 6th man. Westbrook was still treated by some as a questionable decision-maker. Even Durant had not yet reached his peak. At the time, it looked like a hard business decision. Years later, it looked like the night a potential dynasty disappeared. The trade did more than remove a future superstar. It locked the team into a 2-man identity, Durant and Westbrook. From that point forward, every postseason loss became a trial of their partnership. Did Russ shoot too much? Did Durant demand the ball enough? Did they elevate one another or limit one another? Even winning could not stop the questions. Without Harden, the 2012-13 Thunder won 60 games and finished first in the West. Then one collision changed the trajectory of the season and of Westbrook's body.
Russ, what kept you going all those years? What made you get back up night after night when the whole league had a highlight reel of you falling down?
On April 24, 2013, in Game 2 against Houston, Westbrook moved toward the sideline and signaled for a timeout. Patrick Beverley went after the ball and crashed into his right knee. Westbrook exploded in anger. He struck the scorer's table.
Then he kept playing.
He played all 24 minutes of the second half and finished with 29 points. The medical examination later revealed a torn lateral meniscus. 3 days after the collision, he had surgery. After 439 consecutive regular season and playoff games to begin his career, his body finally forced him to stop. Before that play, Westbrook had never missed an NBA game. For a guard who attacked the rim and landed among centers every night, the streak was almost absurd. The collision did not look dramatically different from hundreds of hard landings before it. This time, his knee did not absorb it. Without him, Oklahoma City survived Houston, then lost to Memphis in the next round. A 60-win team lost its second-best player at the moment the path back to the finals appeared open. Westbrook and Beverley would collide again. In 2014, Beverley nearly repeated the timeout swipe in their first meeting after the injury. In 2018, he dove for a loose ball and again went into Westbrook's legs. The relationship became personal, but the larger point was not the feud. After that first collision, Westbrook's right knee was never something he could simply forget about. He underwent additional procedures. He missed stretches of seasons. He returned and continued to play with almost no visible concern for self-preservation. The rest of his career is often judged as though his body remained unchanged. It did not. Knee surgeries take fractions of a second, inches of lift and softness out of a landing. Westbrook compensated with strength, experience, and even more aggression. For years, it worked. Later, the missing fraction of a second began to show. In 2014-15, Westbrook won his first scoring title at more than 28 points per game. At the All-Star game, he scored 41 and took home MVP. A year later, he won it again, becoming the first player to win back-to-back All-Star MVPs outright. He did not return from surgery more cautious. If anything, he came back more urgent. Westbrook never believed in saving himself for a future possession. The only possession that mattered was the one happening now. In 2016, that philosophy came within one victory of beating one of the greatest teams ever assembled. Golden State had won a record 73 games. Stephen Curry became the first unanimous MVP in league history. The Warriors represented the direction of modern basketball: movement, spacing, passing, and an avalanche of threes. Oklahoma City offered a different kind of force: length, rebounding, athleticism. Two stars attacking the defense as if they could break the geometry of the court with their bodies. After 4 games, the Thunder led the series 3-1.
They needed one more win. They never found it.
Klay Thompson made 11 threes in Game 6. Oklahoma City lost control late. Golden State completed the comeback in Game 7. There is enough blame to satisfy every side of the debate. Westbrook turned the ball over and rushed decisions. Durant missed shots he normally made. The offense tightened. The coaching staff never found a calm answer. The loss belonged to all of them. So did the feeling that this version of the Thunder had just lost its final real chance. On July 4th, Kevin Durant announced he was joining the same Warriors team. For Durant, it was the clearest road to a championship. For Oklahoma City, it felt like the best player in franchise history had joined the opponent that had just broken its heart. For Westbrook, it meant the entire weight of the operation shifted onto him. Plenty of people expected him to leave next. Instead, he extended his contract. In a city that felt abandoned, Westbrook became more than its best player. He became proof that somebody had chosen to stay. Now he had to show he could carry a team without Durant. He answered in the loudest way available.
You know, people forget.
Nobody knew who I was. Nobody knew who I was.
Before he was a walking headline, he was just a kid in inner city LA who could jump higher than anybody had a right to.
Now everybody did. The 2016-17 season became a nightly appointment with statistical excess. 30 points, 12 rebounds, 15 assists, 40 and a triple-double, 50 and a triple-double, a fourth-quarter comeback, a pull-up from a place the defense was happy to concede until it went in.
For decades, averaging a triple-double had belonged to another era. Oscar Robertson did it in 1961 and 62, when the pace, spacing, and shape of the league were completely different. It felt like one of those records modern basketball had made untouchable. Westbrook finished the season at 31.6 points, 10.7 rebounds, and 10.4 assists. He won the scoring title and set a single-season record with 42 triple-doubles. But the numbers alone do not explain why the season felt so overwhelming. The timing mattered. Oklahoma City entered a remarkable number of fourth quarters within reach, but not in control. Everybody in the building knew who was getting the ball. The defense knew. The coaching staff knew. Westbrook knew that they knew. He attacked anyway. Sometimes it ended in a wild pull-up or a turnover. But often enough, he made the exact shot he was not supposed to make and turned a nearly lost game into another chapter of the myth. This was not the clean, mathematically optimized offense James Harden was running in Houston. Harden's Rockets lived on threes, free throws, and spacing. Westbrook's Thunder lived on force, second chances, and one player's refusal to accept the expected outcome. The MVP race became an argument about more than two stat lines. It became an argument about the direction of the sport. Harden represented efficiency and modern shot selection. Westbrook played as if a spreadsheet should have to move out of his way.
Adams gives it back to Russ. Deep shot! What a perfect ending to a historic day!
On April 9th, 2017 in Denver, he recorded his 42nd triple-double and broke Robertson's record. 50 points, 16 rebounds, 10 assists. Then he hit a game winner from roughly 36 feet at the horn while eliminating Denver from postseason contention. It was almost too perfectly written. The record, 50 points, the buzzer, the win. Westbrook's entire season compressed into one impossible shot. The MVP debate still had substance. Houston won more games. Harden was more efficient and created nearly all of an elite offense. Kawhi Leonard paired top-level scoring with elite defense. Oklahoma City finished only 6th in the West. Harden's supporters saw Westbrook's victory as narrative overpowering team success. Westbrook's supporters saw a roster that might not have reached the playoffs without him. The first-round series against Houston only made the argument messier. Westbrook averaged more than 37 points, nearly 12 rebounds, and almost 11 assists, while shooting below 40%. With him on the floor, Oklahoma City could compete. When he sat, the limited roster collapsed. He was keeping the team alive and taking on more than one player could efficiently carry. Both things were true. The debate never reached a clean verdict. The award did.
Jordan, you know what I mean? Most Valuable Player Award is Russell Westbrook.
When Westbrook accepted the MVP, he brought his teammates onto the stage. He thanked the father who worked for the family, the mother who held it together, the brother who sent him halftime messages, his wife, Nina, his young son. The public version of Westbrook was built around anger. On the biggest individual night of his career, he used the moment to name the people who made it possible.
League MVP, a triple-double average, a record season, and a first-round exit. The triple-double made Westbrook immortal. It also strengthened one of his most dangerous beliefs, that every basketball problem could be solved with more Russell Westbrook. Years later, Los Angeles would test that belief in the harshest way possible.
From that point on, the triple-double became Westbrook's signature. It also became Exhibit A for everybody who thought his game was built around the box score. Critics clipped the possessions where Steven Adams boxed out and allowed Russ to take the rebound. They noticed when he hunted a 10th assist or stayed active late in a game whose outcome was already decided. They pointed to the usage rate, the turnovers, and the shot selection. Some of that criticism was fair. Oklahoma City did design its transition game around Westbrook, collecting defensive rebounds. At times, the chase for a round number was visible, and his need to control the action produced as many avoidable mistakes as unforgettable moments. But you do not get to 209 regular season triple-doubles by asking a center to step aside. You have to battle bigger players. You have to see the weak side before it opens. And you have to play at a pace most guards could not maintain for a month. The defensive rebound also was not the end of a Westbrook possession. It was the outlet pass to himself. If a big secured the ball, turned and found the point guard, the defense gained time to get set. If Russ took it, the break had already started. The system made sense. It also created a problem. In the regular season, Westbrook's pressure could overwhelm a team before it adjusted. In the playoffs, there was time to adjust. Opponents loaded the paint, went under screens, and took away the runway.
The game got smaller. Russ kept trying to play bigger.
That was the tension. April did not always reward the same force that carried OKC from October through March. Westbrook's teams finished 153-56 in the 209 regular season games in which he recorded a triple-double. That is roughly a 73% winning rate. It does not settle the argument. It does tell us those games were not empty. The honest answer lives between the two convenient positions. Yes, Westbrook sometimes chased the line. And yes, the line reflected real, historic control over a basketball game. He averaged a triple-double in each of the next 2 seasons. He would do it once more in Washington, 4 times in all. The impossible became common. Eventually, people stopped reacting. Westbrook had repeated the extraordinary until it felt routine. In April of 2019, 2 days after the death of Nipsey Hussle, Westbrook finished with 20 points, 20 rebounds, and 21 assists against the Lakers. Before him, only Wilt Chamberlain had ever reached 20 in all 3 categories. Westbrook dedicated the performance to Nipsey. 3 20s added up to 60, a reference carrying meaning in the Los Angeles community both men came from. For Westbrook, this was more than another statistical stunt. When words were not enough, this was how he spoke.
What did winning mean to you? I mean, really. No, not just the trophies. The actual feeling.
Westbrook does not answer that question in the film. Maybe any answer would sound offensive. The numbers had made him a legend. Now, Oklahoma City was about to find out whether the same formula could still win 4 playoff rounds. After the MVP season, Oklahoma City brought in Paul George and Carmelo Anthony. On paper, the Thunder had rebuilt a contender. On the floor, 3 accomplished scorers kept negotiating where one role ended and another began. Some nights, the offense looked devastating. Other nights, everybody seemed to be waiting for his turn. Against Utah in 2018, Westbrook made parts of the series personal. That was his instinct. If another player was having success, Russ wanted the assignment and the answer. But basketball does not always cooperate with a one-on-one challenge. The harder he pressed, the less organized OKC became. The Thunder went home in the first round. 1 year later, Carmelo was gone. Paul George produced the best regular season of his career, and Westbrook averaged another triple-double. Then Damian Lillard met them in the playoffs.
Lillard, long-range three, and it's good!
Lillard pulled up from more than 37 feet and ended the series. His wave finished the game, the matchup, and, in practical terms, the Westbrook era in Oklahoma City. After Durant left, Westbrook's Thunder lost in the first round 3 years in a row. The motor never disappeared, the box scores stayed huge, but the organization could not build a deep playoff run around that style of control. Paul George requested a trade to the Clippers. Westbrook and the front office agreed it was time to look elsewhere. Oklahoma City sent him to Houston for Chris Paul, draft picks, and future swaps. He left after 11 seasons as the franchise leader in points and assists, and as the most emotionally important player the new city had ever known. He did not bring Oklahoma City a championship. He did stay when the franchise needed somebody to choose it. The city never forgot the difference. In Houston, Westbrook reunited with Harden. The Rockets eventually removed the traditional center and committed to 5-out spacing. The bet was simple: make the floor bigger, let Russ attack, live with everything else. For a stretch, it worked. He reduced the threes, attacked the paint, and averaged 27.2 points on the best field goal percentage of his career. The experiment also admitted an important truth: the best version of Westbrook required specific conditions. Put a non-shooting center beside him and the lane became crowded. Take the ball away and his off-ball limitations became obvious. Houston solved those problems, then paid for the solution with size, rebounding, and defensive flexibility. The roster was a fascinating regular season theory. It lasted 1 year. In the Orlando bubble, Houston lost to the eventual champion Lakers. Westbrook was not fully himself and once again looked uncomfortable when the game slowed into half-court possessions. The next stop was Washington. The trade for John Wall was viewed less like the arrival of a savior than an exchange of 2 enormous contracts. The Wizards started poorly. Westbrook played through a leg injury and for the first time seemed to age in public over the course of a few weeks. By early April, Washington was 17-32. Most teams in that position start thinking about next year. Westbrook kept playing like this one could still be saved. Washington won 17 of its final 23 games and reached the play-in. Westbrook finished at 22.2 points, 11.5 rebounds, and 11.7 assists. Young teammates spoke about his preparation and his demands. The veteran, often portrayed as obsessed with his own numbers, spent time teaching film and setting professional standards. Washington was not a contender, but the young players saw what refusing to quit looked like every day. On May 3rd against Indiana, Westbrook recorded 14 points, 21 rebounds, and 24 assists, one of the strangest box scores the league has ever produced. 1 week later, he reached the record that once looked untouchable.
Alone. A record that was titled untouchable for 47 years has been broken. The history in the making, and now that record being broken.
And they just announced...
On May 10th, 2021, Westbrook recorded triple-double number 182 and passed Oscar Robertson. The record had stood for nearly 47 years. Westbrook did not simply approach it. He changed an entire generation's sense of what a point guard could do. Washington lost to Philadelphia in the first round. A few weeks later, Westbrook was sent home to Los Angeles, where a roster built to win immediately was waiting for him. The names looked perfect on a poster. The fit was about to become the most painful chapter of his career. The Lakers gave up Kyle Kuzma, Kentavious Caldwell-Pope, Montrezl Harrell, and a first-round pick to acquire Westbrook. LeBron James and Anthony Davis were already there. 3 famous names were supposed to equal another contender.
Basketball does not work like a poster.
LeBron needed shooting around him. Davis needed room near the rim. Westbrook needed the ball, pace, and a clear driving lane. Defenses could sag off Russ, shrink the floor, and crowd the same areas all 3 stars wanted to occupy. Then came the injuries. The LeBron Davis-Westbrook trio played only 21 games together. The roster was old, slow, and short on perimeter defense. The Lakers finished 33-49 and missed even the play-in. Westbrook averaged 18.5 points, 7.4 rebounds, and 7.1 assists. Respectable numbers for an ordinary starter. A disaster in the context of his contract, the trade cost, and championship expectations. It would be dishonest to blame everything on roster construction. Westbrook wanted the move. When he had the ball, he often returned to old decisions, even though the old burst was no longer always available. Away from the ball, he did not consistently cut or relocate in ways that made LeBron's job easier. Defensively, his attention drifted. At times, he appeared to ask a 33-year-old body for answers it had given him at 28. It would be equally dishonest to make him responsible for the entire collapse. The Lakers traded away connective role players, entered the season without enough shooting or defense, assembled one of the league's oldest rosters, then acted surprised when 3 stars with overlapping needs failed to become a coherent system. Westbrook became the most visible symbol of an organizational mistake made at several levels. The misses traveled faster online than the good games. Every turnover became content. The nickname Westbrook, which had followed him for years, became the soundtrack of the season. Criticism of his basketball was legitimate. He shot poorly. He turned it over. He resisted some adjustments. He admitted there was a disconnect with coach Frank Vogel, but he also struggled to accept that the role he had owned for a decade no longer belonged to him automatically. Then sports criticism crossed into something uglier. Westbrook said his wife and children heard the insults at games. His family received threats. He explained that he no longer wanted his kids sitting in an arena where their last name was being used as a punchline. This was no longer a conversation about true shooting percentage. A professional athlete is accountable for his performance. Fans are allowed to be angry about a season, but a bad contract does not turn a player's family into fair game. For Westbrook, the Lakers' failure was personal in 2 directions. He failed in the city he came from, and he watched the public erase the line between the player it disliked and the person raising a family. The next season, he began coming off the bench. For the first time in years, he tried to accept a 6th-man role. There were useful stretches. There were still damaging ones. The larger situation was already beyond repair. In February of 2023, the Lakers traded him to Utah. He never appeared in a Jazz uniform. The contract was bought out, and Westbrook entered a part of his career where nobody was promising him star treatment. Westbrook signed a minimum deal with the Clippers. Everything that had once seemed guaranteed was gone. The max salary, the endless touches, the assumption that the roster would bend around his strengths. And in his first Clippers playoff game, he delivered a performance that may explain his value better than any triple-double.
On the brink here in Game 1, Booker taking on Westbrook and a block by Westbrook.
Against Phoenix, Westbrook shot 3 for 19.
Earlier in his career, that line might have led him to keep firing until the game disappeared. Instead, he grabbed 10 rebounds, handed out 8 assists, blocked 3 shots, and made 2 steals. With 17 seconds left, he hit 2 free throws. Then he rejected Devin Booker at the rim and had the awareness to knock the ball off Booker's leg, preserving possession for the Clippers.
Los Angeles won. 3 makes on 19 attempts, and one of the most important players on the floor.
It was the full Westbrook experience in one game. A miss, a turnover, a deflection, an offensive rebound, a sprint, a block. Sometimes all of it arrived within a few possessions. When Kawhi Leonard and Paul George went down, Westbrook scored 30 in Game 3 and 37 in Game 4. The Clippers still lost the series. Even his small restoration in Los Angeles ended with another team defeat. But after the Lakers' experience, it mattered. He proved he could still help when the old privileges were removed. The adaptation was never clean. After James Harden joined the Clippers the next season, Westbrook moved to the bench. In the 2024 playoffs against Dallas, he shot poorly, played on edge, and at times created more disorder than value. His late career was not a neat redemption story in which an aging star suddenly understood every past mistake. He adjusted, just not all at once. After another Clippers season, Westbrook landed in Denver. Next to Nikola Jokic, he did not need to be the brain of every possession. His job was to push the second unit, defend, cut, find teammates, and live with his own limitations. On November 19, 2024, against Memphis, he became the first player in NBA history to reach 200 regular season triple-doubles. The last rebound came off a teammate's miss. When a reporter asked if he had thanked Dario Saric for missing, Westbrook said he thanked him for making the next shot, the one that helped close the game. Even on the night of a round number, Russ insisted the win was the point. A few weeks later against Utah, he posted a triple-double without a turnover while making every shot from the floor and the free throw line. Jokic had a triple-double that night too. They became the first pair of teammates to each post a triple-double in the same game more than once in a season. His role shrank in the playoffs, and the efficiency fell again. Denver's run ended in the second round. That fall, Westbrook signed with Sacramento for season 18. He was 37. This was not a ceremonial tour. He played 64 games, started 58, and averaged 15.2 points, 5.4 rebounds, and 6.7 assists. In March, he moved into 5th place on the NBA's all-time assists list, passing Mark Jackson and Steve Nash. He became the first guard to collect 9,000 career rebounds. He joined LeBron James as one of the only players ever to reach 25,000 points and 10,000 assists. Those milestones carried a final irony. Young Westbrook had been treated as an athlete who might never become a real point guard. He left the league as one of its most prolific passers. On March 14th, he recorded triple-double number 209, the last of his career. 5 days later, he faced Philadelphia and finished with 11 points, 3 rebounds, and 8 assists. Nobody introduced the night as a farewell. There was no ceremony, no extended ovation, no lap around the floor. Soon after, irritation in the joint of his right big toe ended his season.
Sometimes, you really do not know you have already watched the ending.
Were you ever afraid of what happens after the game stops needing you? This swing isn't finished, neither is he. And that's the point.
A professional athlete ages in public. Most people notice lost speed privately. A basketball player loses it in front of millions. The jumper comes up short. The first step no longer creates the same opening. Everybody sees it. Westbrook was especially vulnerable because his entire game had been built around rejecting limits. He was not supposed to become a star. A 6'3" guard was not supposed to rebound with centers. A player with that many knee procedures was not supposed to keep attacking the rim. Nobody was supposed to catch Oscar Robertson.
Why not? Was the perfect response to everybody else's doubt. Age asks a different question. What happens when the answer finally is no?
Westbrook could have continued. Reports indicated Sacramento and Washington still had interest. But another year would mean another contract, another fight for minutes, another season in which every landing was compared with a leap from 10 years earlier.
He chose to stop himself.
Not after a perfect final game, not after a championship parade, not in a Thunder uniform under a standing ovation from the city that loved him, Moss. He believed the last chapter was already over, even if nobody had recognized the final game.
But this swing isn't finished yet. That's not a mistake. We left it this way on purpose. Because whatever's next, the mentorship, the foundation, the kids who are going to grow up wanting to move just like he did, that part hasn't been built yet either.
Away from the floor, Westbrook was rarely the person fans thought they knew from tense press conferences. He met his future wife, Nina, at UCLA, where she also played basketball. Together, they raised 3 children. In the speeches after his greatest victories, Russell repeatedly returned to his parents, his brother, his wife, and his kids, the people who knew him before the contracts and records. The why not? Foundation supported families, opened reading rooms, provided books and meals, and built educational programs. Later came Westbrook Academy initiatives focused on students and career opportunities in Los Angeles. His fashion became another easy punchline. But honor the gift and the risks he took with clothing came from the same place as the basketball. A small guard from Hawthorne once had to wait for other people to grant him permission to be taken seriously. The adult Westbrook was no longer interested in waiting for permission to dress, speak, or live on somebody else's terms. Not every outfit worked, not every decision made sense, but the consistency was real. He defended the right to remain himself with the same intensity he used to defend the ball. After the retirement announcement, Kevin Durant remembered arriving at the weight room only to find that Westbrook had already completed his morning work. Durant described him not as loud, but as quiet and methodical, somebody who led by example, then allowed the emotion to come out once the lights turned on. 10 years after their painful split, it may be the most accurate description.
Gym first.
Last question. Now that you decided to step away from everything on your own terms, what are you the most proud of?
18 seasons, 7 TMs, 1,301 regular season games, 27,176 points, 9,025 rebounds, 10,351 assists, 2,038 steals, 209 regular season triple-doubles, the most in league history when he walked away, 14th all-time in scoring, 5th all-time in assists, more than 9,000 rebounds at roughly 6'3", an NBA MVP, 9 All-Star selections, 9 All-NBA teams, 2 scoring titles, 3 assist titles, 2 All-Star Game MVPs, Olympic gold, a place on the NBA's 75th anniversary team.
And no championship ring.
For some people, the last sentence outweighs everything before it. They will remember the turnovers, the missed jumpers, the rushed decisions, and the playoff series that got away. They will say Westbrook's basketball generated more noise than lasting team success. For others, the imperfections are what made him real. He was never a laboratory-designed superstar. His strengths and weaknesses came from the same source. Remove the recklessness, and some of the courage disappears. Remove the stubbornness, and the comebacks disappear with it. Remove the need to touch every part of the game, and there are no 209 triple-doubles. Westbrook entered a league where point guards were still judged first by how calmly they organized the offense. He left a league in which guards routinely score 30, rebound in traffic, and control every statistical category. He did not create that shift by himself. Stephen Curry changed the geography of the shot. James Harden changed the math of isolation offense. Westbrook changed the physical expectation of the position. After him, a young guard could see a rebound above the big men and believe the ball belonged to him. He could see an empty half-court and decide the best outlet pass was his own acceleration. Westbrook expanded the next generation's imagination, even if he never gave it a mistake-free instruction manual. That is the difference between a great player and a perfect one.
Perfect players do not exist. Great players change what other people believe is possible.
Maybe the answer is not inside the trophy case. Maybe it is not hidden in the absence of a ring. For 18 years, Russell Westbrook showed how far a person could go by refusing to accept somebody else's definition of his limits.
Sometimes he went too far. But in the end, the only person who could make Russell Westbrook stop was Russell Westbrook.
That might be the best interview I've ever done. He didn't say a word. And somehow, I understood everything.
Some players leave banners behind. Westbrook left a question for the next kid who is told the dream is too big. Why not?